Antec has been absolutely killing it lately, and it doesn't look like they're going to be stopping anytime soon. The Antec Flux combines extensive cooling and hardware support, all while keeping it classy with various wooden inlays on the front panel. The most interesting thing is it comes in at just $109 US. But is it worth it? Let's find out. It's seeking time.
This video is brought to you by VIPSCDkey.com. Have you ever installed Windows 11 only to see the watermark of death? You don't need to fork out a couple of $100s for a key. You can grab one from today's video sponsor, from VIPSCDkey.com for a tenth of the price. You can use our code GEAR to get 30% off for this month only. How good is that? That takes that already cheap Windows 11 key and makes it even cheaper. It's easy as placing your order. Bingo bango. You've got your new key on your orders page. You chuck that key into the activation screen and you're good to go. No more watermark of death. Use code GEAR to get 30% off for this month only. Link in the description. On with the video. Back to you, Nick.
Let's start off with panel removal. There's a captive thumb screw on the back edge of the TG side panel. You want to loosen that up and then you want to pull the panel towards you. There's a little tab on the end of the panel as well. And then you can lift that away from the case. The back panel is the same deal here. Again, captive thumb screw, tab, pull towards you, and then away from the case. To remove the top panel, you can remove it from the back, and you'll see once you've removed the side panels, there is now a lip, and you can put your thumb underneath and then push that top panel up and pull that away from the case. Yay, away from the case! Removing the front panel is as easy as putting your finger underneath the lip of the bottom of the front panel and then pulling it towards you, and then you can pull that away from the case. We can also remove the top panel. There's two screws that hold this panel in place, one at the back, one at the front. And this is particularly useful if you're doing liquid cooling or you want to install the fans a little bit easier, and you lift that panel up and away from the case. How good's that? Power supply shroud panel is also removable with the use of two screws. So again, one at the back, another at the front. And don't do that. Yeah, don't do what I did. Oh yeah, that dropped and kind of chipped the paint, but it's okay because that's a me problem, not a you problem. On the bottom of the back panel, much like the PSU shroud on the front of the case, there's also mesh here that is used for intake. So it's not just one side on the Flux, it's both sides. As for storage, we've got this hard disk bracket here. This can do two 2.5-inch drives or two 3.5-inch spinning rush drives. And there's another removable sled on the back of the motherboard tray with a captive thumb screw, and that's for another 2.5-inch drive. For power supply support, the maximum supported PSU length is 235 millimeters with all of your cables plugged in with this hard disk bracket in here. The Antec Flux has 5 pre-installed fans. We've got 3 120 millimeter PWM fans installed up the front of the case. There's a single 120 millimeter fan installed on the top of the PSU shroud. This right here is a reverse pitch fan as well. And pre-installed on the rear, there's a 140 millimeter PWM fan as well. None of these fans are RGB, but the case has a little trick up its sleeve. The Flux has an integrated PWM and 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB hub. The way this works is all the fans plug into the hub to power them, and then those 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB plugs for lighting, if that was what you were doing with the case. And then there's a pass-through from that to your motherboard. So you use your motherboard software control for all of that. It does require SATA power for all of the lighting. There is that PWM cable for passing the PWM signal. It doesn't power the fans. And then that 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB cable for your motherboard, so your motherboard can control all of the lighting for all the fans that are plugged in. The Antec Flux is taking cues from cases like the Fractal North, with a beautiful wood inlay on the front panel. The wood that's used here is birchwood, and one of the most interesting things about this case is you get a little wood sample with the case explaining exactly what kind of wood it is. There are different variations as well, so the black case has a different type of wood for the inlay, but the white version has this beautiful light colored birch inlay. And I love the smell of fresh wood in the morning. Cable management is pretty interesting on the Flux. You've got this cable raceway with 3 massive Velcro tie downs, and typically this would be used if you weren't doing a BTF build, which we'll come back to in a moment, but this is a very elegant solution because Compared to other solutions we see out there, this channel is quite wide, and it looks as though these Velcro tie downs will allow you to pull all the cables down. This is a bit of a problem that we see with some cable management solutions, is there's not enough Velcro to pull things down that kind of exceed the height of these cable management raceways. So this one looks to be fine. As well as that, because this supports BTF boards, you've got the typical BTF cutouts, which is all fine. So like this is Project Zero, Project Stealth, and ASUS's BTF. As well as that, you've got these large rubber grommets in here, and that is for passing through 24-pin power cables and graphics card cables and all of the cables here. There's still grommets on the bottom of the case. I'm a little bit torn with grommets at the moment because they can be quite annoying sometimes and add to the cost of cases, but as you're about to see, or maybe I've talked about it already, this case doesn't cost that much. Something that we're seeing that has become quite ubiquitous with new cases is external cable management for all of the cables that plug into your PC. The Flux also has tie-down points for those too. At the front of the Flux, you can do up to a 420mm radiator or liquid cooler, or 3 140mm fans, which means it supports everything lower than that. So 3 120mm fans, 2 120mm fans, and all that jazz. Even though there's a single 120mm fan pre-installed on the PSU shroud, you can actually do up to 2 140mm fans. If you look closely, it has the threaded screw holes for larger fans here, 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 and here, and so forth. Earlier I showed that that top bracket was removable, which means on the top bracket, we can do up to a 360mm liquid cooler. You could do a 280mm liquid cooler, or 2 140mm fans, or 3 120mm fans. So the fan support in this case is quite good. On the rear, you can do up to a 140mm fan. Obviously you can see 140mm is possible because of the pre-installed fan, and you can also do a 120mm fan if that's more your speed. For air cooler support, we've got a maximum supported height of 180mm. And typically when you look at the size of rear fan support, it will give you an idea of what that maximum cooler height would be. Typically 120mm fans, if it's super tight, is about 165, and 140 will be 180 and above. For dust filtration, there's a really large dust filter that runs the entire length of the bottom of the case, and it can be pulled out through the front of the case. For motherboard support, the Flex supports boards from ITX up to EATX, and I think Antec isn't really sure what EATX is, because I'll be honest with you guys, this is a good thing, not a bad thing. There are additional holes here for standoffs, which means it looks like it probably supports SSI EEB motherboards, like a proper full tower case. And don't be fooled by this. People have been saying that this is a full tower. This is a mid-tower case, not a full tower case. Antec themselves calls it a mid-tower, but it does have the features of a full tower, which is nice. But the trick is, this is a modern case, and in modern case land, cases support back connector motherboards. So we pull this one out of the way and you'll see quite quickly that we have support for all of the back connector standards. So this is Project Zero, BTF, Project Stealth, and the additional trick up its sleeve is it has support for MATX back connector boards as well. Also, I will mention something that I think is quite important to talk about, because, you know, I've done a lot of back connector builds now as compared to most other people. The hole cutouts are wider than many other back connector cases I've seen, which means it's much easier to plug stuff in. One issue I saw with some of the newer Corsair cases that support this is these are not wide enough, and your 24-pin power connector can be a bit of a pain in the butt to plug in. So there is that. But this one is much wider than it should be, which is good. The maximum supported GPU length is 408mm. I know it's a very specific number, but this case is quite long, and even if you're thinking of vertically mounting the graphics card here, you're good to go. All gravy, baby. You can do vertically mounted GPUs because there's no horizontal support brackets on the rear of the case at all, which makes it easy to use any vertical GPU bracket that you like. For case wiring, we've got the front panel audio connector, we've got a USB Type-C cable, the power cable, the reset cable, and a USB Type-A 3.2 cable. Now what's interesting about these is typically you would see the names for whatever written in black, even on a white cable, but there's a crazy amount of detail. Check this out. They've embossed the letters on there, so even though it's white, you can still read it. Unnecessary, but really cool. For top panel I/O, we've got a power button, a reset button, a combined headphone and microphone jack, 2 USB Type-A ports, and a USB Type-C port. As far as we've seen, for $109 US, this is a very interesting case from Antec, but let's do our usual thing. Let's do a build, we'll test the thermals, and then I'll let you know if it's worth your hard-earned money. Spoiler alert, this case is definitely worth your hard-earned money, so make sure you stick around because I've got some more thoughts I want to share with you guys on this. All right, here are the thermals at the Antec Flux. What you're seeing on your screen right now is the thermals are actually rather good. There's a few reasons for it. First of all, there's no dust filter at the top of the case, and I already know what people are gonna say. Oh, there's no dust filters on this case. Well, it has dust filters in the right place, which is on the bottom. And because of the type of mesh that this case uses, it's very easy to clean with a damp cloth. Sometimes dust filters can be an absolute pain in the butt for cleaning, and this is a nice happy medium type of solution. Yeah, that's it. Thermals are good, right? Even for a 14900K, really, really good. If you're interested in any of the hardware used in this build, there's a PC part picker list down below, but Antec Flux, what are my thoughts? Well, I gotta say, I don't have anything bad to say about this case for a few reasons. First of all, the price is ridiculous. $109 with 5 included PWM fans and an RGB controller. Yeah, I mean, what bad can I say about that as a combination? But the build quality of the case is phenomenal. And I've been saying this for about 2 years now. Antec is making some of the best quality cases out there at the moment. And they just need to keep going on this trajectory because they're gonna be absolutely unstoppable. Everything about this case screams premium with a non-premium price. It is a very, very good case. I really don't have anything bad to say about it. Let's flip it around and take a look at the cable management on the back. Check this out. I did not try to cable manage this build at all, yet there were clips and tie down points and everything needed with 0 to no effort. So again, very well thought out case. The Antec Flux is absolutely phenomenal, and I think Antec has done it once again. They've absolutely freaking nailed it. Not only that, the wood inlays on the front just add a little bit of class, kind of like what we saw with the Fractal North. but not at Fractal North prices, right? That's the main thing here. This case is stupidly affordable. It's got crazy compatibility with radiators for liquid cooling, lots of fan support. And you saw, I put the TRX 50 AI top in there and it fits perfectly. Yeah, very, very, very well thought out case. Don't have much more to say about it. I think you guys are really gonna like this case. I really, really like it. Antec is just keeping me in the game when it comes to cases right now because everything they're making is just so solid.